She packed her bags with a kind of determination that made me realize there was no bargaining left. The zippers rasped shut like final verdicts. Every drawer she pulled open, every shirt she folded, every pair of shoes she stuffed into the suitcase sounded like an echo of the things I didn't say soon enough. When she slung the final bag over her shoulder, she didn't cry. She didn't hesitate at the doorway. Instead, she smirked, lips curled with something cruel, and tossed her last words over her shoulder like a dagger. You'll be alone forever. No one will take your side. I wanted to yell, to argue, to ask how she could say that after all the years I had held her hand, after the nights I stayed awake listening to her fears, after the mornings I made coffee just the way she liked it. But I didn't. I just nodded. Maybe because part of me already knew there was no dignity in begging someone to stay when they'd already chosen to love someone else. She left, and the silence that followed her departure pressed against the walls of the house like a storm held at bay. My family called. Friends stopped by, but I never told them the details. They didn't need to know how she had been slipping away for months, that the text messages I once brushed off as just work friends had turned into something more, that her laughter with someone else had grown sharper than the silence she shared with me. Nights stretched long. I replayed every scene, every warning sign I had ignored. But despite the ache, I forced myself not to hate her. People leave. People make choices. What was I going to do? Chain myself to bitterness? No. I let the house breathe again. Cleaned it. Changed the sheets. Opened the windows. Slowly, I felt the air shift. 2 weeks later, just when I had started convincing myself I could live in the quiet, she came back. It was raining that evening, the kind of steady rain that blurred the world outside the windows. I heard the knock and assumed it was one of my brothers stopping by. But when I opened the door, there she was, hair plastered to her forehead, mascara streaked, suitcase dragging behind her like a wounded animal. "Can I come in?" she asked, her voice cracking. I stood in the doorway, staring at the woman who had walked out with fire in her eyes and a smirk on her lips. The same woman who had told me no one would take my side. And there she was, on my doorstep, shivering in the rain because the man she left me for had discarded her just as quickly as she discarded me. "What happened?" I asked flatly. She swallowed, her throat bobbing. He kicked me out, said it was a mistake. I didn't know where else to go. The words stung, but not in the way she might have expected. They stung because they proved she hadn't come back for me. She had come back for shelter, for safety, for familiarity. "My family's inside," I said quietly. "They're the ones you'll have to ask." Her face twisted. "Don't do this. Please. I know I made a mistake, but..." I stepped aside just enough for her to see into the living room, where my mother and sister were sitting. They looked up, shock rippling across their faces. And in that moment, I realized something. My family had always been my side. They had seen my heartbreak without me ever needing to explain it. She stepped inside, dripping water onto the hardwood, her eyes darting between them like a child caught sneaking in after curfew. I need somewhere to stay." My mother's gaze hardened. She had always been gentle with her, always welcoming. But now, she crossed her arms and said, "After what you did to him, you expect us to take you in?" Tears welled in her eyes, but I didn't step forward to defend her. Not this time. I let the silence sit, let the weight of her choices finally settle where it belonged. "You told me I'd be alone forever," I said at last. My voice was steady, almost calm. "But look around. I was never alone. You just couldn't see it." Her lips trembled, but she had no answer, no clever remark, no smirk, just a suitcase and the realization that the bridge she burned couldn't be rebuilt with apologies. I walked to the door, opened it, and nodded toward the night. "I hope you find what you're looking for, but it's not here anymore." She stood frozen for a long moment, as though she thought someone, me, my mother, anyone, would suddenly take pity. But no one moved. No one pleaded. Finally, with a choked sob, she dragged her suitcase back into the rain. The sound of it bumping down the steps was oddly final, like a book closing. When the door shut behind her, I leaned against it, breath shaking. My sister reached out and squeezed my hand. My mother wrapped me in a hug. And in that moment, I knew, despite everything she had said, she had been wrong. I wasn't alone. I had never been. The days after her second departure were different, lighter. For the first time in months, I could look in a mirror and not see someone left behind, but someone who had chosen peace over chaos. Someone who had survived betrayal without letting it define him. Her words haunted me less and less as time passed. And one morning, with the sun filtering through the curtains and the smell of fresh coffee filling the kitchen, I realized something that made me smile for the first time in weeks. Being alone was never the worst thing. Loving someone who didn't value you, that was, and I was finally free of both.